The city council in DC realized that the eviction protections they put in place after the pandemic were too strict and that they were costing landlords millions of dollars. Now they're rolling those protections back. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it has to go over something that I used to cover a lot, and that's the eviction moratoriums and the eviction protections they put in place after the pandemic. So obviously, I am not a fan of any of those laws. I thought that a lot of these jurisdictions, they went way beyond what was necessary, and the end result was a bunch of freeloaders taking advantage of the system in order to live for free. And that's exactly what happened in Washington, D.C. It shouldn't surprise anyone that, you know what? People, they got wise to the rules and they took advantage of the laws so that they could live for free. Why should a landlord not deserve to make money? Okay? So anyway, now they're rolling those rules back. They should have done this a long time ago. I mean, we're talking about, it is October of 2024 right now. The pandemic started in March of 2020. If these people haven't been able to get their act together by this point, well, they're hopeless. They're absolutely hopeless. We're 4+ years beyond the start of the pandemic. Okay, you're hopeless. You're just taking advantage. So you know what? At least the city council finally got wise to it and decided to try to fix it. But you know what? It's idiotic these things were in place in the first place. But you know what I've been saying the whole time? Don't invest in a place like DC, okay? DC has extremely strong tenant protections, has rent control in place. They don't care if you make any money or not. They want you to be the free housing provider for these people. And you know what? They're going to take advantage of you. The city and these people are going to take advantage of you because they want your tax dollars. They think that you're just some rich, greedy person. Well, you know what? The small mom and pops are the ones who suffer the most. They always are, because they don't have the emergency reserves to last for 4 years while their tenant isn't paying. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So are you surprised that the city of Washington, D.C. decided to finally roll back these eviction protections for these tenants? I'm sure no one is surprised that, you know, they thought it was going to happen eventually, but did you think it was going to take this long? Okay, 4+ years. I didn't. Okay, I thought that maybe common sense would come up about 2 years ago, but I was wrong about that. Okay. Anyway, let me know what you think of this whole situation in the comments below. I'm going to get into the details of this story. This article is coming from NBCWashington.com, and it says, DC rolls back pandemic-era protections that cost landlords hundreds of millions. DC leaders say affordable housing is at risk because many people still aren't paying their rent. Yeah, guess what? We can't keep housing affordable if we're not getting rent from all of our tenants. Wow, what a surprise. I mean, you know what? These socialists, they finally are starting to see the reality behind the situation. But you know what? They're not going to change the laws. They're just going to do this little minor change thinking that's going to make all the difference. It's not, okay? You're screwed. You screwed over too many people. And the end result is, well, you know what? Housing's not going to be affordable. Anyway, let me get into this article. The DC Council has passed emergency legislation to make it easier for landlords to evict tenants who haven't paid rent. Council members unanimously voted Tuesday in favor of the bill that rolls back some protections the city put in place for low-income residents during the COVID-19 pandemic. District leaders said the protections led to a crisis of unpaid rent, and as many as 20% of renters still aren't paying each month. The law, passed in the wake of the pandemic, protected tenants from eviction each time they applied for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP. That protection existed even if tenants were not approved for assistance, resulting in hundreds of millions of dollars in losses for landlords, officials said. So basically, they created a system. The loophole was easy to see. If you applied for emergency rental assistance, your eviction stopped, period. And then they had to adjudicate that application before the landlord would be able to go through with the eviction. But then all the tenant would have to do is just apply again. So, you know what? The tenant never had to pay. The landlord would be 100% unable to evict that tenant, and the resulting losses, hundreds of millions of dollars. 20% of all the tenants in Washington, D.C. were not paying rent because they knew about this. So when you have, laws in place, right, that hurt businesses like this, that punish businesses for wanting to make a profit, this is going to be the result. Even honest people who would have paid the rent had this law not been in place, they decided not to pay because look at all these other people not paying. I might as well get in on the action. That's what these people are thinking. That's why I say we cannot run our businesses like charities here. And these politicians that they might have good intentions. Some of them, I'll say some of them have good intentions. Some of them want to shut the system down. Some of them don't believe in private landlords at all. But some of them actually have good intentions and were trying to help people because they thought they'd end up homeless. Well, remember, unintended consequences. Everything has unintended consequences. That's why we should have limited government, small government, and we should let the free market dictate these sort of things. Mayor Muriel Bowser said Monday that landlords are facing more than $100 million in unpaid rent for 2024 alone. DC has invested hundreds of millions of dollars over the past 10 years in affordable housing for low-income residents. Now we have a serious problem. We are at risk of losing that affordability. And once we lose those affordability covenants, they're gone. And here's the root problem. We have about $100 million, as this slide shows, in unpaid rent to affordable housing providers. And if things don't change, that number will skyrocket to $150 million by next year, Bowser said in a meeting with DC leaders on Monday. So yeah, the people who are not paying rent, you know who they're not paying rent to? It isn't the for-profit landlords alone, right? It is these nonprofits who are providing affordable housing. And the nonprofits, they still have to, their books have to be balanced. Your books have to be balanced so that, they can keep operating and keep providing the affordable housing. Because otherwise, who's going to fill in the gaps? The city, the federal government? Nonprofits, they don't make any money. So they're getting all of their subsidies from, local and federal governments. Okay, so we're talking about a nightmare if suddenly the city of Washington, D.C. has to come up with $150 million just so these buildings can continue to operate. See the problems you create? This is my issue, right? That they're so focused on these affordable housing providers, they don't think about the small mom and pops. They don't think about the businesses, the bankruptcies that they've caused, the financial distress that they've caused, and also that a bunch of freeloaders can live for free. What a joke! The crisis is especially hurting affordable housing providers, which affects both the maintenance of current affordable projects as well as the prospects of creating more affordable housing units. We are seeing arrearages that are taken to court for eviction in the tens of thousands of dollars. I think these may be outliers, but cases of $70,000 or more being owed in rent, and I find that mind-boggling, Middleton said. Dean Hunter represents small and individual landlords who have complained it's too hard to evict tenants who don't pay their rent. This has had a devastating impact on the vision of affordable housing in the District of Columbia. And if we don't get ahead of it, we're looking at a real disaster, Hunter with the Small Multifamily Owners Association said. And he's absolutely right. Okay, they're looking at a disaster here where less and less landlords are willing to even rent their properties out. A lot more landlords are going into bankruptcy. Properties, their maintenance is not being kept up. They're becoming unsafe. They're becoming not habitable for tenants to even live in. And all of this being caused by the government, okay? The government is the one that caused this. So what is the solution? That's the first step, but they need to get rid of some of these other laws too. Get rid of rent control. Get rid of the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. I believe DC is one of the places that has that stupid law as well. You know what? And allow these landlords to be able to evict tenants who are screwing them over by not paying rent, okay? But what do you think? I want you to put a comment down below and let me know what you think of this whole situation.